You can say that you put God in control until all of a sudden you're looking death in the face. You know, you realize that God is in control of every moment, every breath that you take. I didn't realize how much I thought I was in control of my life. I was experiencing vertigo a lot.
We ended up getting a CT scan, and the doctor contacted us that afternoon. She came in and she took one look at him and she said, "There's just no other way to say it. You have a brain tumor."
We met with Dr. Russell. It was sometime late September.
Initially, he told us, he said, typical surgery is you go in, you have the surgery, you stay in ICU for a few days, and then you're in a regular room for a few days, and then home. He went in for surgery. Dr. Russell came out. He was confident. He said, I think we got it all. Everything looks good. That Sunday morning, I went to wake him up, and he didn't wake up. He was completely unresponsive. Jim wasn't moving. He wasn't opening eyes. His vitals were stable, but that was it. Dr. Russell came back. He looked at me and he says, "Well, we've got a lot of decisions to make. This could go into a long recovery." He said, if it goes long term, are y'all up for it? I said, "As long as you use the words recovery, work for whatever it takes."
We were following the situation, Jim's status on Facebook. Teresa was posting updates. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't looking so good.
That's when we went to see Jim and Teresa.
Jim's a big, burly guy, and to see him in the state that he was in was shocking. The doctors were a bit shocked. They were a bit baffled at the situation.
There was 3 neurosurgeons, and they couldn't tell me why he was laying in that bed in a coma. He's been in my life for 25 years, and I thought, I don't know how to do this without him. I went downstairs to the chapel, and there was only one thing that I asked God at that point. Don't make me go home and tell my boys their daddy's not coming home.
She shared with me that she was helpless, that she was afraid, that she was angry that God might take Jim from her.
What if? Even though he can, what if he chooses not to? What if, for whatever reason I don't understand, your will's not what I want? And it hit me. You know what you haven't done? You haven't told him that even if he does what you think is the unthinkable, he's still God. He's still gonna be God. Doesn't change who he is or how he is or how he cares about you.
Having my husband physically healthy, with me, it's hard for me to say that if God just took him from me, that I would go, okay, I can handle this, God. I saw this faith and trust in her, and I know it just had to be God.
I felt like a 1,000-ton weight lifted off of me right at that point, because that's when I stopped worrying how it was all going to turn out.
I remember praying for him like I have not prayed for anybody in a long time, that God would deliver him out of this state that he was in.
We went out to dinner, and Justin dropped me back off at the hospital. I walked into his room, and he was sitting in the bed with his eyes completely wide open and looked at me like nothing had ever been wrong. I hadn't seen those blue eyes in about 10 days, and it was probably the best sight that I think I'd ever seen at that moment. He still was really, really weak at that point.
I had been in business for myself for 17 years and run 2 companies, own 2 companies, and all of a sudden I physically can't do anything. I couldn't even do the basic stuff that it took to get myself ready. To God, there is no other way. It's all you. You got to do this because I can't do it. He is now, day by day, I say more my God than he was.
Every time that we see him at Life Group, it's like he's a little bit better than he was before.
Every time we see him, I'm reminded there's God's miracle.
knowing that Jesus conquered the grave, what I've got going on is small. You know, he was crucified, and he still rose again. He still came back on the third day. And it makes the physical ailments that I have seem so small, you know, that he conquered everything. He conquered death.